Hello everyone, I hope everybody's doing well. What's up everybody, D-Man back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Monarch news and updates. This one should be much simpler than the last one, thank God. Again, much like in the last video, I want to point out that the big topic of today, the character descriptions from Monarch, I already made a video talking about that a year ago, so if you want to go check out that video, I've got a lot more in-depth breakdown about what each character's story could be. I do a lot more speculating than I'm going to do in this video. That was much more of a speculation video. This is a news video. I also break down like the Easter eggs and the references in the names, so if you're like, why is he not mentioning that this character is named Emiko and that we have an Emiko from the 1954 film? It's because I already mentioned it in that video. Today we're going to be covering all of the MonsterVerse news, both Godzilla and Kong and Monarch, that came out in February of 2022. Starting out, KDM pointed out a potential that I had never thought about but really like, and that is the potential to bring Mark Hamill into the MonsterVerse. Mark Hamill, of course, is a longtime Godzilla fan and also a big genre fan in general. I think giving Mark Hamill a role in a Godzilla movie or series, I could particularly see him doing well in this new Monarch streaming series if they do like a season 2. I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity. I believe it would give a huge boost to viewership and a big boost to fandom, and I think it would get a lot more eyes on the project. I could just see that being a fantastic thing all around. Plus, Mark Hamill, I mean, he could do it. He's around, he's working, I'm sure he would love to. Next up is Toho Kingdom's My Pet Godzilla, which is a fan film project Toho Kingdom's working on. This has been in development for years, but Chris over at Toho Kingdom shared an image of it of a little legendary Godzilla chowing down on some Doritos on the couch. I'm not sure if this short film released yet. I guess I'll find out as I continue learning about 2022, but I think this is adorable. I think when this comes out, it'll be a fan favorite. Just based on this design alone, this is super cute. So he continued post-production on My Pet Godzilla in February 2022. Now, I normally wouldn't be covering news like this just because I don't think it's terribly important, but this is Kaylee Hottle, so I'll give her a special shout out. Hill County Comicon, which was being held from March 5th through 6th of 2022, was featuring Kaylee Hottle as a special guest. They also did a special screening of Godzilla vs. Kong there, and I just think that's really fantastic opportunity for Kaylee. I'm really happy to see her going to conventions and getting work, and I really appreciate that she's been embraced in the way she has been. I think she's an incredible person and deserves all the love she gets. She also posted a little video sharing that she was excited to be at the convention. Now, of course, that was March, but it was all announced in February. Speaking of things that were announced, YouTooz Godzilla vs. Kong plushies were announced, and the photos were revealed, and they are adorable. I actually got the Kong for a friend, and they are so cute. I think the Mechagodzilla is adorable. Look at the way that his spines look like a little tuft of hair on his head. Personally, my favorite is Kong, and then Mechagodzilla, and then Godzilla, but I think they're all really sweet and cute. I hope that people who were able to get them enjoyed them a lot. Playmates had a series of figures that were revealed in a Toho Kingdom article. I've got that article linked down below if you want to go get more details on these figures. A lot of these figures, if not all of them, have come out by now. These were their 2022 slate, but I will be covering them more in depth as we get to the month by month. So now I'm just going to run through the headlines. Starting out with their announcement for Godzilla vs. Kong City Battle set. I really appreciate Playmates doing sets like this. I like the accessories. I like that it's a full set. I think it's really cool to see them doing stuff like that. There is also a deluxe battle roaring Mechagodzilla, which is cool to add him to the battle roaring lineup. A supercharged Godzilla, which I have reviewed, and I just don't know why this exists. It doesn't justify its existence. An Antarctic Kong, which I think is actually a pretty solid figure. A battle Mechagodzilla with the Proton Scream. I like this one a lot. This one's quite different than the original Mechagodzilla releases. And, in my opinion, the most exciting of all, a City Destruction Godzilla 2014, which I have reviewed and do like, and a Ferocious Kong from 2017. That's probably Playmate's best MonsterVerse figure yet. I thought it was really great. I have reviews for that as well, so you can go check that review out if you want. Hiya Toys, I told you they were going to get a lot of coverage in 2022, announced that they got the license for an upcoming MonsterVerse slate featuring Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Godzilla, and Kong. This announcement says that they will be continuing to make unmovable statue figures and also 6-inch articulated action figures. Their stylistic series would be statue-based figures, while their exquisite basic series would be action figures. These would be articulated, and much like what we would see with NECA, a lot of people are crowning them as the replacement for NECA. X Plus announced a King Ghidorah 2019. At the time, we didn't know much about it, but we got a cool poster poster featuring their design, and I really like it. From what I can see in this poster, they've gone for a very scary look at Ghidorah. I think that roaring head looks incredible, and overall I think this is a really great pose to begin with. This is very distinct, very different than what we've seen from Spiral Studios or other people, and in typical fashion, I think X Plus killed it here. Not every day I get to talk about Kong Skull Island anymore, and I'm really happy when I get to. A VFX reel was discovered by Michael Codell, who worked on Kong Skull Island. He is an ILM animator. This VFX reel features a ton of extended clips from Kong Skull Island and some shots that are completely cut apart, so you don't get to see the whole thing play out the way it should. Although I do prefer the final edit to all of these cuts. I have seen comparisons to all of these cuts. I prefer the final edit and color grade. I really like the footage here. It's actually not very often that I prefer the color grade in the movie. In the cases of Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla King of the Monsters, I prefer the original color correction before the final film's color grade was put onto it. But in the case of Kong Skull Island, I think the final color grade is very beautiful. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Michael's work. He did an amazing job. He's also done some other work, like he is the animator who brought us to life Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War. So big shout out to him. I have an article linked down below that is a good read all about how Godzilla vs. Kong saved cinemas. I know that a lot of people like to downplay it and say that Godzilla vs. Kong, it didn't matter. It was just any movie that came out around that time would have done that well. I would urge you to go check out the box office breakdown I did for Godzilla vs. Kong to show why that just simply is not the case and why Godzilla vs. Kong was the perfect movie to release at the time it released. Not only did it have the perfect release date for itself, but also no better movie could have been released in that slot. But in the article I have linked down below, it talks about how AMC, the largest cinemas in America, were going bankrupt up until Godzilla vs. Kong came out. It completely turned their company around and is the reason we still have AMCs today. And if the largest theater chain in America fell, it wouldn't be long before the others started to fall as well. So yes, Godzilla vs. Kong is the movie that saved cinemas. Godzilla vs. Kong was, however, snubbed at the Oscars. In one of the last videos I mentioned how it was nominated. I actually made a mistake. It was put on the short list for nominations, which means it made it through the preliminary phase. It is now in the front runners to be nominated for the Oscars. It did not get nominated. Not that it would have mattered. I think there was much bigger talk the night the Oscars aired than who was winning. And I think that when people remember the 2022 Oscars, they're not remembering it for who won. But either way, it does suck to see Godzilla vs. Kong didn't get nominated because it truly did have better special effects than the movies who were nominated, at least some of them. I'm not sure who won. I couldn't care less. Maybe it went to somebody who deserved it more than Godzilla vs. Kong, but I'm telling you, Godzilla vs. Kong's work is way more impressive than some of those other nominations. Now let's get into Monarch. Oh yeah, baby, we're here. The Monarch phase has truly begun. And I gotta start out by talking about something that was pointed out in the comments section on my last video. This comes to me from Marcel Boyan. I hope I said his name right. He is a German person who translated KDM's article that I talked about in the last video. If you remember in the last video, I'm like, I don't know what the heck KDM is talking about here. It says that Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island are awesome. What does this mean? Marcel weighed in the comments and helped point things out to us. The retranslated part about Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island being awesome is indeed not entirely accurately translated. KDM's post states that the events in Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island are canon, therefore events from both movies will be referenced. That goes much more hand in hand with what we were talking about in that last video, and also goes much more hand in hand with the things that will come in later videos. There are returning characters from Kong Skull Island, and we will be following directly up on Godzilla 2014. So yes, this absolutely makes sense. Big thank you to that. I appreciate when people point things out to me like this. Next up, KDM teases Titanus Typhon. Typhon is the Titan that lives at Outpost 92. That's at Angkor Wat, Cambodia, and KDM just simply posted pictures of Angkor Wat and of Typhon's location, and then simply teased that we might be seeing this Titan show up in a future project. This could make sense because KDM says that we will probably see Titans that we have never read about but do know the names of. So these wouldn't be Titans who have appeared in the Godzilla King of the Monsters novelization, nor would they be Titans who have appeared in Godzilla Dominion, but these would be the other unknown Titans. So it could be entirely possible that we see Typhon in the new show. For those who don't know, Typhon lives underground in Outpost 92 in Angkor Wat, Cambodia, and is awakened by Ghidorah's Alpha Call in 2019. He then goes on a rampage in the Philippines. Normally I'd be like, well, he wakes up in 2019, so he can't be doing anything before that, unless they have him go to sleep in Angkor Wat, and then they build up the Monarch outpost around him, like he wasn't originally there, but now he is? Well, now we're checking in line with the King of the Monsters canon. Greg Keyes, the author of the Godzilla King of the Monsters novelization, wrote a whole chapter about this Titan that got cut from the novelization. He says that Legendary's approved design for the Titan is not even remotely dragon-like. And in Greek mythology, Typhon is a bit of a chimera, a giant serpent-like monster. He is the father of monsters and is also the father of Scylla. I don't think that Typhon's going to be the father of Scylla in the MonsterVerse, but I do think there may be a connection between the two. All right, now we got the big topic for the day. Again, I've broken this down in my video from last year, so if you want to hear my breakdown with Easter eggs pointed out and some story speculation, go check out that video. In this one, I'm going to be strictly talking about it as news and moving on because I want to keep things moving. All right, our Monarch character details. First of all, we have some production details. Shooting was scheduled for outdoor shooting days and nights in Tokyo, Vancouver, San Francisco, London, and other cities. There would be studio shoots done in interiors in Tokyo. Hawaii shoots were scheduled for October 2022 at Oahu and Kaloa Ranch. These are day and night shoots, exteriors, and island shoots. So again, there could be the potential that we get some Skull Island Easter eggs and references. I don't really know what they would be because we can't really go to Skull Island. We've already been there multiple times in canon. We know the original visit to Skull Island. We know they don't go back until 2012. There's not really a time or a place for them to go to Skull Island. But I don't know, maybe they'll show clips of it and not show Kong and be like, look at this mysterious island. I don't know. Maybe they just won't show it. Maybe Hawaii will be used as a completely different location. Maybe it'll be used as like a flashback to a different country or something, and they're just shooting at Hawaii. I have no idea. Shooting was scheduled to begin on May 16th and end on November 16th. We'll talk about in the next video that actually that production schedule gets shifted by a month, but that was when it was originally scheduled to shoot. Chris Black, the showrunner, the Star Trek guy and Mad Men guy, also wrote the show. All right, now we have the official character descriptions. I'll also mention that if you want more in-depth character descriptions, I've kind of summarized what KDM posted, but KDM has much longer character descriptions that you can go check out down below. Starting out with our main character, Kate, who is a series regular. She's a female in her late 20s to early 30s, is a Japanese American, and is wary and surveys the world at a distance because she has suffered both personal and professional trauma that she has not yet recovered from. But Kate still maintains her sense of humor. She's a former school teacher who travels to Japan to settle some family affairs. She's an English speaker who can speak limited Japanese. Kate uncovers a family secret, which is the source of more trauma, but chooses not to run from it, and instead chooses to learn more about her family, forcing her to deal with some problems that she can't even imagine. Kate becomes angry and volatile, but continues on until she starts to reconnect with others. I'm sure the others she's reconnecting with are people like May, Kentaro, and the others. Next up is May, who's another series regular, female, 20s, black British expat, sharp and quick-witted with a strong sense of self in a world where not much is certain, including her true identity. She has a vulnerable side that few get to see in order to protect both them and herself. She sees past the BS in people and does not hesitate to call them out. She's very smart and good at problem solving. She can decipher code, find loopholes, and is always 3 steps ahead of everyone around her. Next up, now this is actually the plotline that based on the descriptions alone, I'm far more interested in learning about, and that's everything to do with Kentaro and his family. We have Kentaro, who's our series regular. He's male, 20s, Japanese, youthful and fiery, lacks some patience and manners, highly intelligent, yet too widespread to find his niche yet. Goes from being an engineer to a low-paid digital artist. He wants to buck the system and take his own path, which has led him overseas where he becomes very good at speaking English with a Japanese accent. Kentaro is fiercely loyal to his family and returns home from London to support his mother, who he now lives with. Kentaro sets out to learn about his revered yet mysterious father. This journey will help Kentaro become his own man. Now, if I'm to understand KDM correct, I believe he says that originally Hiroshi, Kentaro's father, was Serizawa, which does that mean Kentaro was originally supposed to be Ren? What a missed opportunity. I actually like that they're new characters, given that the story they're going with seems to fit new characters better, and I think it'll be interesting to see different people, but man, I would love to see Ren and Ashiro back on screen, especially together. That is much needed. Next up, we have series regular Emiko. She is a female, 50s, Japanese, steady and soothing, and helps others in pain, even when they're people she doesn't know or can't communicate with. In some instances, there's a Japanese to English language barrier. I assume that means she doesn't speak any English. She's a devoted wife and mother who is able to be forceful and take charge when needed, especially to aid her son Kentaro. She knows what's best for Kentaro even more than Kentaro knows about himself. Next up, we have the character I am most excited to see, Hiroshi. He is a series regular, male, 50s, Japanese American, a patriarch who lives by his own rules. As a father, he can be engaging and whimsical, but also distant and sometimes even cruel. His mysterious scientific work is his calling. He's a PhD who works with satellites, and often his work takes priority over his family. Hiroshi splits his time between Tokyo and San Francisco and is fluent in both Japanese and English with a slight accent. His family struggles to make sense of who he really is beyond what he cares to reveal to them. Now, I know in the previous video we talked about how KDM teased that not only good people work for Monarch, and I think this guy might be one of those people. From the sounds of it, I would be willing to bet Hiroshi is not a bad guy, but is the antagonist of the show, somebody who our characters are at odds with because he knows more than them and is hiding stuff. Although I hope, based on this character description, that he doesn't wind up being a bad guy, because I think the whole dad is a bad guy thing is a little overplayed, but I am very curious to see how this goes. I'm excited. Finally, we have Keiko, who's just a reoccurring character. She's a female, 30s, Japanese, thoughtful and driven, a brilliant scientist who is often the only woman in the room, but is able to hold her own against her male colleagues. She speaks very good English, and they respect her for sticking up for herself and her principles. She is focused on her scientific mission and will do whatever it takes in the pursuit of knowledge, including put her life on the line. In the last video, we also talked about how KDM teased that there would be 2 to 3 main characters in the show working for Monarch. I would assume Keiko is that other character who's working for Monarch. Just based on this description, she's a scientist, and it seems that every scientist in the Godzilla universe works for Monarch. So I would assume she works for Monarch, and I would assume she's probably on the lower level of it, but I don't know. Maybe she's not really mixed up with the main plot. Maybe because she's just a reoccurring character, she's a Monarch worker who they go to from time to time to learn things. That could be as well. What do you guys think about all this stuff? Which characters are you most excited to see? Like I said, I'm definitely most interested in Kentaro's storyline. I specifically want to know about his father, but I'm very open to all of it. I think there's a lot of potential to it. Definitely let me know what you think down below, and what Titans do you want to see in the show? Out of the Titans we know of in Godzilla King of the Monsters, don't add in Toho monsters. Out of the Titans we know of from Godzilla King of the Monsters, what Titans do you want to see in this show? I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon. I really appreciate their generous support. It truly means a lot to me. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Alright guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.